Awesome.
You did not already lose my voice.
Oh, okay. There you are. That's good. So how are you?
How are you?
I am well, but how are you? You haven't answered me yet.
I'm fine. Had a great day. Cleaned my house.
Oh, lovely. Let's start off with the right thing here. I am talking to Theresa R. If you are on Bunny Boots live stream, I can't see you. So if you have questions, pay Bunny Boots a whole bunch of money and he will put them somewhere where I can see them. And if you just want to make fun of me, that's also fine. You can just do that in chat there. If you do want to get involved in this, you can come into Bunny Boots Discord server. You can hear us. We're in the center ring. You won't be able to talk, but you will be able to maybe answer questions if Miss Theresa R wants to stick around at the end. And you can always ask questions in the Blood Sports chat room. And that would be by text, and maybe we can read them. So now that I have all of that out of the way, Miss Theresa R, I was looking at your channel, and it seems you have a very particular style, and you like to do open records request. How did you? Is that true? Let's start with there. Is that true?
That is true. My passion is public records.
And how did you? I noticed that the first one you have up is in about 2013. That's pretty old. So, how did you get into that?
I learned how to make public record requests back in, I guess, about 2000 when I worked for a little local newspaper. I was the editor for my little local newspaper, and I learned how to make public record requests and kind of learned how to keep an eye on my government.
So you started back when you were working for a newspaper. I'm assuming that means you are no longer working on or for a newspaper?
I still do a little reporting for PNAC, but for the most part, I don't really work other than, activism.
Okay. So do you watch auditors, or do you watch people who make open records requests? What's your kind of target that you watch in this community?
Involved with video activism, watching Jeff Gray and Thomas Covenant, and people like Carlos Miller and Michael Burns, and then one of my favorites is Joel Chandler, who does a lot of open record requests in Florida.
Joel Chandler, I have not heard of him yet, so that's a new and fun one. So you have been around, you've been doing this for a long time, so I think you've got quite a bit of chops as an activist. I don't think anybody's going to doubt that you are a true activist. So I noticed, maybe it was spring of this year, it's hard to tell, that there's a lag between when it's filmed and when it's released, that you went to Washington, D.C. with News Now Houston. Is that correct?
I did. I don't remember exactly what month, maybe March or April.
Okay. How did you guys come to the decision to go to Washington, D.C.?
I've known David, I guess, for about the last 5 years, since his very first video, when he and Philip Turner both got arrested at that Shell station in Houston. And I met David because I had to send the bail money for Philip to get out of jail to David, so I wouldn't have to drive all the way to Houston to bail him out myself. And I didn't watch a lot of his videos or anything until probably the last year and a half or so. I started getting more involved in the Texas group, and met the people out there, and he's involved with the people in Texas a lot more, so than I was.
Yeah. So
that's how I know David. And then, through that year or so, we had talked about doing audits and stuff together. He had come to town here and we had done some audits in Lafayette and stuff. And he had asked me if I wanted to go to DC for a few days. And I was like, heck yeah.
Okay. There will probably be some hard questions in here, and I do apologize for asking them, but if I don't ask them, others will. So I need to kind of get around this. Is there now, or has there ever been any romantic feelings between you and David?
Well, I know people ask that a lot, but I'm not David's girlfriend. I've never been David's girlfriend. I have a significant other at home. I'm not married, but the person that I'm with, I was married to and divorced several years ago, but we're still together for off and on the last 30 years. So, romantic
this is
relationship.
the lawyer in me coming out, and I'm going to apologize about this again. But you didn't actually answer the question. So I'm going to try it one more time.
Go ahead.
Do you now, or have you ever had romantic feelings towards News Now Houston?
Myself personally, maybe the other way around.
Okay, that's fair enough. So when you went to DC, you guys went as just friends?
Yes.
Okay. So the point of going to DC was to film. It seemed like David had something else going on there that he had. Was there anything else beyond just going to film?
Oh, not that. No, I don't think so. I'm not sure what you mean.
Like, was there an event going on that you guys wanted to film specifically, or was there something you wanted to go see, or was it just a general fishing expedition to go see if you could get some good videos?
Anything specific? It's just videos.
Just videos. Okay. You were also in the vehicle with David at one point in time. I'm going to call him Earl or David or Mr. Warden or News Now Houston, kind of interchangeably. But you were in the car with him at one point in time when he was detained for at least several hours, at least according to him, at an Inland Border Patrol checkpoint. Do you remember that at all?
Being stuck at that place for, it seems like almost 3 hours.
You're stuck there for 3 hours. Mr. Warden, Earl, is claiming that he had a firearm in the vehicle. Did he have a firearm in the vehicle?
Vehicle.
You cut out there. I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
There was a gun in the vehicle.
There was? I don't know if anybody else is having the same kind of difficulty. It's like you're cutting off before you start talking or something like that.
Let me try again. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
There was a firearm, a gun, in the car. Yes. That was something that I learned when we got to the checkpoint.
Oh, well, happy surprises to you. And did you ever see that gun, like up close and in personal? Did you ever touch it? Do you ever have any access to it? Were you able to ascertain what kind, make, model, caliber, anything like that?
Well, I mean, I don't know make, model, and calibers of guns. I'm not a gun person. But I know it was a gun, a revolver style gun.
Okay. Did the people at the inland checkpoint, did they maybe mention anything about it? From my understanding, they called ATF. Did they mention anything about? Did you hear the words cap and ball or black powder or anything like that?
You know, at the Border Patrol checkpoint, I really didn't hear what the Border Patrol people were saying about any of it. I wasn't really around them, and when they talked to him, I wasn't there listening to them for the most part. Maybe there was a brief conversation where, at one point, where we were just kind of standing waiting, and we were just kind of talking back and forth with one of the guys there. But all of the kind of details of the detainment and everything that went on between him and the Border Patrol, I mean, I wasn't really privy to what they were saying.
Okay. In that video, he said that you two had an agreement that you would ID and he wouldn't prior to going through the checkpoint. Is that correct?
Answer the question that I was a citizen.
You would answer the question that you were a citizen.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Did it surprise you when Earl said that there was a fire? When Earl told the Border Patrol agents preemptively that there was a firearm in the vehicle, did that surprise you?
Yes. Did you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
It's because I didn't realize that the gun, and I didn't realize that the gun was in the car. And then I thought we were going to get to leave, and then all of a sudden we couldn't leave because there was a gun in the car and they had to bring it inside.
Okay, so
you had to look at it or something.
You did or you didn't know prior to getting to the checkpoint that there was a firearm in the car?
Oh, prior to getting to the checkpoint, that there was a gun inside of the car. I didn't know. I mean, I had seen the guns before and what have you, but I didn't know that they were coming with us to Laredo. Gun person. And, you know, and I don't have, I respect the Second Amendment and all of that, and I want to clarify that. But I personally don't have a lot of experience with handguns and guns. And I guess the experience that I have had around guns makes me very nervous to have them. I think it just introduces a whole lot more, how many things that can go wrong in the situations that we put ourselves in when you introduce a firearm.
Absolutely. I agree with you. It does add a whole level of complexity if you're out there auditing with a firearm. But this does bring up more questions. You said you had seen his guns, plural, before. How many guns did you see him have?
2 of them. Did you hear me?
No, I did not.
I have seen 2 different guns.
2 different guns. Okay. Are you aware of Earl's background? Criminal.
I think I know most of his criminal background.
Okay. Does it bother you being a single female traveling with him all the way from Louisiana to Washington, D.C.? Did that make you uncomfortable?
I had been around David for the last year or so, and been around him in other situations where I felt comfortable. But I didn't feel uncomfortable, and I do want to say that he was very respectful in every trip that I've ever taken with him. So, I never had any reason to be concerned personally.
That's fair enough. So how about his professional background? Has he opened up and talked to you at all about his professional background, as in what he's done for employment prior to becoming an auditor?
I mean, I've talked to him extensively about himself. So yeah, I guess so. I don't know that I remember everything that he's told me, and but yeah, he's told me about his background, and I felt like he was pretty honest with me about his background.
Okay.
When I heard him talk about it, it sounded sincere. But look, I mean, and I work with a lot of people have criminal records, and I've worked with several people that have sex offender records in their past, and my thing has always been, that people pay their sentences, and they do their time, and when they're done, they've paid their debt to society. Now, that doesn't mean that, because they're a registered sex offender, and I'm a little leery of the stories that cops tell, that I'm going to let them babysit my grandchildren or have them around my grandchildren or what have you, depending on the type of crime or whatever. But it doesn't mean that they're not human beings and that they haven't paid their debt. So I'm going to tell you about that, but I wanted to say that.
Well, I think I understand where you're coming from. it doesn't give me a whole great deal of pleasure to be delving into this. And the reason why I am delving into it is only because there are so many inconsistencies with his stories about his previous employment and about his possession of firearms that are inconsistent with what we know about his criminal background. That's really the only reason I care about it. However, it did interest me that you were comfortable enough with him to travel, what is that, like 1,500, 2,000 miles across country from Louisiana to DC, that you were comfortable enough with him for that. So I thought that was something that it was worth talking about. So as far as your understanding of Earl's past, has he ever told you that he was a federal law enforcement agent?
Well, what I understood was that maybe he worked for a security company overseas.
An overseas security company. This is new and exciting. Please elaborate. I've never heard this one yet.
I'm not sure that I can elaborate on it. I know I had heard, I thought that he had told me maybe something about that he worked in Germany, a contractor for the federal government, and he was providing security for, and this has been a little while back, so let me try to remember exactly what he told me. But like security for Arab people that have all this money, and I guess there's a lot of terrorism or whatever in that country, people kidnapping and stuff like that. And so I don't know, it's something to do with that, something to do with contracting with the federal government to do that.
Okay.
Protection.
That's new and exciting. So, is that the only kind of background that he ever told you about?
Let me ask you a question. Just let me ask you a question real quick. What is it? I mean, I understand, and maybe I don't, because I've watched some of News Now Houston's videos, especially the ones I guess that I'm in, and I've seen many of them, but I'm not really sure. I don't really know what the controversy. I don't really understand what the controversy is about his past and what have you. I mean, I really don't know what he's told other people about his past. So I don't know that I'm misinterpreting what he's told me or exactly what. So I just kind of wanted to clarify that.
Okay, that's fair enough. My personal issue with it is when people rely on their credentials to not necessarily inform the public, but to give what they say weight and credibility. So if I walked out on all my videos and said, you should listen to what I have to say about the First Amendment because I'm an attorney, well, I am an attorney, so you would at least know that, I've went to law school, I've passed the bar, I know something about the First Amendment, but I don't really care for that style anyway. I prefer to say, this is what the law says, these are what the cases are, and I rely on that. David, however, has chosen a different route. He likes to talk about fusion centers, and he likes to talk about his secret contacts inside of them. And he likes to talk about his experience as a federal law enforcement officer and all these other fun and exciting stories that make it sound like he knows what he's talking about, when in fact he does not. So if Mr. Warden was simply to come clean and say, look, I wasn't a federal law enforcement officer, then my interest in this would be gone. It would be done. I would have nothing to criticize the man about. When his past originally came out, I was one of the guys who was saying, look, I don't care what his past is. He did his time. He's done with it. He has a First Amendment right. He has every right to express himself with a camera or without. But he's chosen to double and triple down on it. And then the firearms thing is another sort of issue. I believe, that he needs to correct, because he's making it appear that felons can carry firearms in Texas, and that's not the case. So it's just leading to confusion. And I get people asking me over and over again, how can Earl carry firearms? And I have to tell them, I don't think he can. But then they say, well, the ATF returned his firearm to him, and I say, well, it appears that way. So that's my interest in it, and that is solely my interest in it. So does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. It does. Let me clarify something though about the guns, because at least that David has sexual assault. And then following the sexual assault conviction, there's a charge for felon with a firearm. And I'm not exactly sure, but I think he did it like 4 years or 5 years or something in jail for that. I don't know how people could possibly think that he could carry a firearm.
Exactly. And yet there he is in video after video. If you look at the Leon Valley video, he's prancing around with what he's claiming to be a Smith & Wesson on his hip. When he gets...
in Texas, the black powder pistols are not considered, I guess, a firearm. And a black powder pistol is what open carry activists worked with when they'd open carry before they passed the law to be able to open carry with concealed carry, or I'm sorry, open carry with license in Texas that they just passed in I think last year. So it was pretty common thing. People don't that around that law is carrying a black powder pistol.
You broke up quite a bit there, but I'll work with the bits and pieces that I got. While I understand that it may well be a black powder pistol, and that's fine, that doesn't comport with what Mr. Warden claimed. For his Ruger, and I'm using huge air quotes around Ruger, he claimed, I believe, that it was I'm going to screw this up, something like a Red Hawk, something, but it was a 44 Magnum. It was a Ruger 44 Magnum Red Hawk, which you can't get a 44 Magnum, from my understanding, in a cap and ball. You can get a 44 Magnum black powder, but it would be, you can't get it in a cap and ball, which is the exempted firearm style. So those are the kind of questions that keep making me go,
So it was my understanding at the Laredo checkpoint that they took the gun because they didn't know at the time whether or not the law would classify it as being easily converted to a regular firearm, because the cylinder comes out of it. Because on a black powder pistol, the cylinder comes out and it can be changed readily into a regular gun.
Yeah, I've had someone from Texas go over this with me a little bit, and I was aware of that. So I'm assuming then from this that you're not comfortable in talking about Mr. Warden's claims as to his past employment. Is that where we're at?
I mean, I don't know what to tell you about his past employment. I can tell you this. What I can remember is that I remember he told me that he was in the Army for a few years, in the Houston Police Department. Like he was going through police training at the time of the, and then I don't remember how the contract job with the federal government fit in with that. And the only other thing I can tell you about his employment is that maybe he worked for the marina close to where he lived, stopped working altogether, and just started doing videos. That's about the only thing that I guess I've ever heard about his past employment personally.
Okay. Have you ever been on his sailboat? Yeah.
I've seen a sailboat and I've walked on a sailboat. I've never been inside of a sailboat or went out sailing on the sailboat, but yeah, I've seen a sailboat.
Oh, you've never gone sailing on it. That's too bad. So you seem to have taken a really big interest in the Leon Valley incident and town halls and all this fun stuff. What attracted you to the Leon Valley incident?
Really upset about Leon Valley going to Jack Miller's house and raiding his house. I was really upset about that. And I was really upset at them taking the cameras of the people that were just standing around watching. And I guess, just people that were walking up on the scene, taking their property from them when that flag burning thing happened. That really bothered me. And so I went out there to support my friends, I guess.
Okay.
What interests me, when I went out there, they called the chief called the fake press conference, and then he took my $1,000 iPhone, which is still over there, and I was just sitting there. So, and, I'm credentialed media with PENAC. I still do work with PENAC. And I had even, I had gone around to the press conference specifically to gather video so that I could post it on the PENAC website. And, and he stole my phone. So that's why I've taken a personal interest in it. I can tell you just from past experience in dealing with so many municipalities over the years, that when things like that happened, and I mean, they've happened over and over and over again with Leon Valley, you have to know that there's something more going on behind the scenes in the books. And so I've been I've spent probably the last month and a half just scouring every public record that I can get my hands on from Leon Valley.
I notice you're fairly fixated on the fire chief. There is some $20,000 expenditure that is somehow tied into personnel and to safety. Have you ever figured out what that is?
Figured out what that is, and I don't know that they're going to let us figure out what that is. I think one of the things that interests me the most about Leon Valley right now is their red light cameras, and the fact that their salaries are climbing so much every year with every new budget with these new red light cameras.
Do you believe that to be illegal or immoral?
I don't believe it to be illegal, but I think what it excuse me, what it tells me is that, obviously this red light camera is a revenue generating machine for towns all over the place. That's why they put them in there. And so now that they're generating all this revenue, what do they do with it? And how do you take revenue? How do you take revenue from a city without stealing it? How do you do that? Well, you just increase your salary every year, and you increase it and you increase it and you increase it, and nobody's the wiser, because the way that they're doing it is that they're taking a little bit of the city manager's salary out of here and a little bit out of here and a little bit out of here. So you can't tell that she's making, how much she's making every year, because with every new red light camera, with every new program that they install, with every new crime prevention board, there's a new salary bump. And that concerns me.
Okay. What do the residents of Leon Valley think about it?
I don't know. I mean, we've heard from several Leon Valley residents. We've had probably at least a handful of people that have reached out to us with other issues that they've had over there with the police department and what have you. Most people have a big issue with the red light cameras there. Contacted us, have an issue with the red light cameras or with their cars being impounded.
So most of the people who have contacted you have an issue with the red light cameras and their cars being impounded. Could it be that they're contacting you because they're upset that their car's been impounded and there was a red light camera?
Well, yeah. I'm sure they're upset that they got a ticket, I'm sure.
Right, but my broader point is you're hearing from the people who are upset about it, but you're not hearing from the people who are okay with it. So what I'm wondering is your scientific survey a valid one? It seems to be quite self-selecting.
I wouldn't call it a scientific survey.
Nor would I, which was my point.
And I wouldn't say that I have any idea what the residents there think. Like I said, I have no idea. What I do know is that, there are municipalities that will, the residents just don't have time to watch. They don't watch. They don't pay attention. They don't know what's going on there. They just don't have the time to do it. And you can look at places like Bell, California, and people were just fleecing the taxpayers there. They were paying themselves just millions of dollars over there, stealing money from the taxpayers. And it was because nobody was watching for so long. And that's what could happen here. And I think that's probably one of the biggest issues. And I've done a lot of research on Leon Valley. This is not the first issue that they've had there. They had a big issue several years ago with a takeover, with the city manager trying to take over the mayor's job and oust the mayor. And there's another there was another issue there. With the business licenses or the occupancy or something like that issue between the city and the businesses there. So this isn't their first issue.
Well, if we judge it by that metric, every city is going to have issues. There's 11,000 people there, which means there's about 11,000 failure points. But you said that the people of Leon Valley don't have time to, or may not have time to, find out what's going on with their city council. You've been to the city council meetings. Are you there alone, or are you there with other members of the city of Leon Valley?
I've gone alone. The last time I went by myself.
So it was just you. You were the only person in there watching the city council meeting?
Oh no, I'm sorry. No, there were about 5 of us in there.
Okay. And someone is saying that the city meetings there are live streamed. Is that your understanding?
They are. They are. They have a lot of technical problems with their live streams, but yes, they do have them live streamed.
Well, I have technical problems with Discord every once in a while. Do you know how many people roughly from Leon Valley watch those live streams?
Watch the videos that, the little clips that I take of the meetings out.
Yeah, you seem to get about 1,500-ish, or I've seen as many as 6,000 views on your videos from Leon Valley. Obviously, we don't know if those are city residents. Oh, someone is saying now that they have a YouTube account. Have you seen Leon Valley's YouTube account?
No, I haven't.
Oh, that'd be interesting to see how many people are watching them. Have you checked with neighboring municipalities, neighboring to Leon Valley, to see if the salaries that their various city management positions are being paid are roughly in line with their neighbors?
That is what we've been doing the last couple of weeks in trying to get some information from another municipality close by. Happened though is that you can't really tell how much anybody's making through reading the budget. And when we make the public record requests, they're taking 35, 40 days to respond. So it's taken us a little while to get the information.
Okay, but you're working on it. You're going to try to figure out what people are making roughly in that position in the area, and what Leon Valley's managers are making, and what everybody else is making to compare, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Here's something you can compare is that they're paying someone $60,000 a year to run their impound yard. And
you're talking about the what is it, Bemis or something?
The city actually created or built their own impound yard. Banis just tows the cars for them. Banis just moves the cars around. Mm-hmm. Banis brings them from where they're at. They bring them to their impound yard, and they get paid a certain amount for each car that they bring in.
Okay.
But the city keeps the cars there, and they have a police officer that runs the impound yard, and they pay him $60,000 a year. Well, my brother owns a wrecker service in Lake Charles here, which is a lot bigger city, and we did they impound a lot of cars there. But I worked for my brother before I got sick and before I was disabled at the impound yard, and I didn't make $60,000 a year. And I ran the yard all by myself. $30,000 a year doing that. They're paying someone $60,000 a year, and this year they're going to hire someone else, and someone else is going to sit up there in that impound yard and get paid $60,000 a year to do that job. So that's what I'm talking about whenever I talk about, you know, the salaries going up and them creating new positions and spending the money in that way.
And it's bad for them to hire a police officer to stay in the yard because
that they're just paying a police officer to sit in the yard so that they can have, you know, they can pay him $60,000 a year instead of hiring someone else that would be perfectly qualified to do it for $30,000 a year. So,
have you looked into the required qualifications for a impound yard that has evidence, vehicles that are towed in for evidence and things like that? Have you looked into the qualification requirements for that?
We had vehicles that were towed in with evidence for evidence. You know, whenever a car comes in like that, there's tape all over it and what have you. But for the most part, when a car has evidence in it, and when they need some evidence out of that car is going to be towed from the location that they pick it up straight into their processing center. They'll have a garage somewhere, and it might not be Leon Valley. It might be San Antonio's processing center or whatnot, but that's where the tow truck will bring it. The tow truck will bring it over there. They'll finish processing it, and then the tow truck will pick it up and bring it back to the impound yard. So the only time that they really come to the impound yard for evidence is if they're serving a search warrant on the car afterwards. Like maybe they think, oh, well, you know, maybe they pick this person up and we happen to have the car. We send out notices to everybody and they say, oh, well, that car was involved in a shoplifting. We'd like to get in it and see if there's any merchandise in it, which has happened before. So they'll bring the search warrant out to the impound yard. So that's what I'm saying. The impound clerk doesn't, you know, they're not the ones that need to make sure that the evidence is all straight and that's not how it works. That the car goes straight from you know, wherever the crash was or wherever the murder was or whatever, it goes straight to the processing center. I mean, that's part of the chain of evidence. You know, they have to do that. They can't just go stick it in an impound yard somewhere, even if it's at the police station. They don't have someone there all night long with it.
Okay, so I liked it, but we're still going to keep on going. I'm going in a particular direction. The impound yard that you worked at, that was in what state?
Louisiana.
And does Texas have the same or different laws than Louisiana?
Searching, they're very similar, very similar.
So what I'm hearing you say is they're different.
There are some differences. There are some differences.
Have you researched the differences?
I've been looking through the law, the Texas law, and in fact, I watched a video today that someone did and went through the whole law, and it had something to do with the Bannis towing and their business license being put up, and they, you know, just everything that they were reading through, everything that they read through, that the guy read through, was exactly like Louisiana. I don't know, you know, I mean, I don't know any differences right off the top of my head, but I'm sure there are.
So my point is, that there are specific licenses required in Texas to work at a vehicle storage facility. Did you have the same licensing requirements? Did you have to get the same licenses to work at a vehicle storage facility when you worked for, I believe it was your brother?
Impound yard was licensed. The people that worked there were not licensed to work there.
Then there are in fact differences between Texas and Louisiana, one of which is that employees of a vehicle storage facility have to be licensed. So that may explain the difference between hiring somebody for $30,000 a year and finding someone who has that license who you may have to pay $60,000 a year. Could that be the case, or am I being wrong?
It could be the case, and it could be the case that the city needs to send both of these people through whatever course that they have to go through and pay them $60,000 a year. So probably the case is that they're not qualified, that they're being hired unqualified, and then the city's paying to train them. So there's a whole lot of aspects of it. I mean, there's a whole lot of aspects of it that you can look at. I don't know. I haven't seen the records. You know what I mean? We haven't been able to get our hands on the records yet. I'd like to know all those things. There's things that I suspect are going on. I mean, I suspect that they're probably paying for this guy's licensing every year. If he has to have a license, I suspect the city's paying for it. That doesn't really seem fair that, that they would have to give somebody $60,000 and train them to do a job that, they could pay somebody $30,000 a year to do.
Okay. So call me naive. I've never been a reporter, and I've never done what you've done. But I'm picking up a lot of I suspects and I thinks, and it could be the case that's so. I'm curious. It seems that you may have some bias against just straight up. They are wrong for paying this person $60,000. I don't know why. I don't know how, but it's wrong for them to pay $60,000 to have someone watch their facility in this capacity. Is that what I'm hearing?
Let me clarify. What they're doing is not wrong. It's not illegal. It happens all over the place. That's how it works in cities and municipalities everywhere. They get their money through the salaries. What my point is, whenever I make light of that or that I bring attention to that, is because people need to see it for what it is. And maybe you don't see it the way I see it, but I think there's a lot of other people out there who have, maybe Padilla, who's worked for a tow company, or other people who have worked in the towing industry, or other people who have been police officers, can kind of see it for what it is. Hey, I worked in an impound yard and I only made $34,000 a year. And because this guy's been a cop over here and he's just next in line for the good job, he's going to get paid $60,000 plus benefits, which is another third. And they're going to hire somebody else so that they can both sit back there and watch TV all day, because let me tell you, there's not a lot to running an impound yard. Again,
so just for the record, I am not a huge fan of the waste of government or spending on extra things. I am very much a believer in small government and small taxes and general freedoms. But again, there were a lot of conclusions being expressed in your line of statements that have yet been unsupported. Do we know that this person was a retired police officer, and that the next person they're going to hire is a retired police officer?
I don't think I said retired. I just said he was next in line for the good job. I think that's what I said.
Okay, so this person is next in line for a good job. What made this person, why do they owe this person anything? What makes this person next in line that they feel they need to just give him $60,000 a year for doing nothing?
Well, I mean, there's all kinds of reasons, but I'm going to speculate. I can tell you what is common. Because like I said, I've followed city governments for a long time. What is common is that if you supported me in my election, or you supported me for whatever reason in other ways, if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. That's the way it works. I mean, there's nothing illegal about it. That's just the way it works.
So, okay. Are you aware that Padilla isn't able to do the what do they call those impounds, or what the tows where it's not consensual? He can only do the ones where somebody breaks down. They call it the tow company. He doesn't get to do the ones to the impound yards.
Non-consent tows.
Thank you. Words are hard.
Always.
So you've been doing your research at Leon Valley, and have the besides the obvious hurdles that you have to get over, the red tape, the bureaucracy, and all that fun stuff, which I completely understand, and it's very frustrating. Have the employees, the city employees of Leon Valley, been harassing you or following you or otherwise making your life difficult?
No. I think I live too far away for that.
The reason why I bring this up is there was one instance where you were in one of the meetings and you left and went to your car and you were looking very nervous and you were looking around and saying that you thought you might be followed back to your hotel room. Did that turn into anything?
Oh, and I was a little nervous because when I left that meeting, I had gotten, and you can't really see it on the video, but I had gotten surrounded by, like I say surrounded, there was a couple of police officers that came up on me really quick and wanted me to leave. And it made me really nervous because I know how they've been in the past. And so I was a little nervous when I got in my car. But nobody followed me or anything, no.
Okay.
I didn't even, I didn't do any James Bond maneuvers to get back to the hotel either. I just went straight back. So
I was hoping for like an oil slick or something, but that's fine. Would you say that your general perception of police is positive, neutral, or negative?
Depend on the police force that you asked me about.
Just in general,
some opinion of the police is that they across the country, if I can say that, that I hate police because, when I first got back involved in this, I told you that I started long ago newspaper, but when I got back involved in this, it was because my daughter had died in a house fire, and I had a lot of trouble getting the records and stuff from the house fire. And I'm not exactly sure where I was going. Oh, and when I first started doing the video activism, I was really angry with the police department, angry with law enforcement for the way they treated, my family. I don't know that I'm as angry with police as I used to be. And so I don't want to say, I hate cops or whatever. There are some days when I think, gosh, the good cops just stand there and they watch the bad cops do this and all cops are bad. But, that I get angry sometimes with some of the things that I see that go on across the country. But I don't think all cops are bad. I think generally most people are good people. But I think that, when they're allowed to get away with things and see things that other people do that they're allowed to get away with, and they don't have any supervision, and their supervisors, they're never held accountable. I think that they need some reform. Let me put it that way. I'm sorry, I'm kind of long-winded about that.
No worries. So if you could reform them, what in a sentence or less, what one thing would you do to reform the police?
I think probably one of the things that would help the most is to require police officers to carry their own insurance. If there was one thing that I could pick, I think that would be it.
Okay. You do understand then that the police would get paid more because they would have to spend to fund their own insurance, right? I didn't hear your response.
I do understand that it would be more expensive. And I know, as public servants, that we would be footing the bill for it. I realize that. But companies are not going to put up with this, they're just, if you keep wrecking your car, they're going to drop you. And that's the same thing that goes for police officers that would carry insurance. And so it might cost us a little more, but I really think that it would help.
Okay. Do you think that the police who routinely make mistakes, do you think that they're kept on the force, or do you think that they're, in generally speaking, that they're removed from the force?
I think if they're nobody's watching them, they just keep them right on the force.
If nobody's watching, so what I'm talking about is like making mistakes, like where obviously a police officer making a mistake, no one's going to really care if the police officer fills out the wrong form for his break or doesn't have his badge polished just to the right sheen. Police officers, when they make mistakes, I'm talking about in dealing with the public and dealing with people. And so there is going to be someone noticing it if they make a mistake, like someone ends up getting shot or tased or otherwise deprived of life or liberty or property. So people notice those things. Do you think that police officers who routinely make mistakes in dealing with people's lives, liberties, and properties are let go, or do you think they're retained on the police forces?
You know, I think that too many times that they're retained. I think that it's not often enough that they just get rid of them. And, you know, maybe that doesn't exist in other states, but I live in Louisiana, and, you know, I live in the prison capital of the world. So the police here, I see it every day. You know, another one that's being arrested for whatever, everything, anything you can think of. And I just saw one the other day. This guy was given 5 days suspension for assault against a woman for making her perform oral sex on him. And he was given 5 days, and then all of a sudden, you know, the news finds out about it, and now, you know, they're reinvestigating it. If nobody's watching, they do. They just let them. And I almost think it's almost because they don't want to have to file the insurance claims, or I don't know. I'm not sure. They keep them so they can avoid liability. I have no idea why they would want to keep these kind of people.
I don't think you understand the kind of liability that they're facing. A cop who forces a woman to perform oral sex on him is opening himself and the city up to a huge lawsuit. 1983 coming out your ears, and you're going to have a very receptive jury who's going to be looking at it and more than willing to take all the pennies, nickels, and dimes out of the city coffers. So,
and in this state, if it happens in a low media market, no one's ever going to hear about it. No one will ever hear about your federal lawsuit. And in this state, the insurance company, the Louisiana Risk Management Association, is going to settle with you, and it's going to be a confidential settlement. Nobody's ever going to hear about it, and they're going to let that guy stay there, and he's going to keep working there.
That's interesting. I would love to see statistics on that, because it doesn't sound. I've been in, most of my life has been in business, so I know business more than I know the law, and it sounds, if someone was going to be just jacking my insurance rates through the roof, like if I had a driver who was just getting in accident after accident, probably on the third one at most, he'd be gone. So it doesn't quite. But speaking of lawsuits, Mr. Burress, you introduced Earl to Mr. Burress?
Is Burgess. His name is
Burgess.
Clayton Burgess. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I did.
How did you meet Clayton Burgess?
I did some work for another attorney here in town, and he introduced me to Mr. Burgess, and Mr. Burgess took my first federal lawsuit that I filed.
So I got a ration of shit, if you'll pardon the expression, because I didn't make a big deal out of Mr. Burgess being a personal injury attorney. But you say that he took your first federal lawsuit. So do you think that he understands federal lawsuits?
I do. Absolutely. He's filed a lot of federal lawsuits I'm aware of, just in the since I've known him the last 4 years or so.
Does he typically do well for his clients? Do his clients typically get what they believe they deserve out of it, that you're aware of?
Yes.
So in your estimation, Clayton Burgess is an excellent lawyer and the right one for a 1983 lawsuit?
He's the best one I've come across around here, anyway.
All right, that's good to know. So you introduced Earl to Mr. Burgess. Is Mr. Burgess is he representing Earl in the Leon Valley lawsuit, or is the other fella whose name I forget, is he doing the representation on that one?
I want to say that David signed a contract with Burgess for the Leon Valley stuff.
I didn't see Mr. Burgess's name on it, but that maybe I missed something.
Did Burgess file the federal suit with Leon Valley yet?
It was the other fellow. Mr. Burgess's name was on the initial complaint, but on the amended complaint, all references to Mr. Burgess were gone.
Radner, that's right.
Radner, yes, thank you. So that will be interesting to find out. So what are your plans for the future? I'm assuming that at some point in time you'll lose interest in Leon Valley. Do you have any particular plans into the future with your auditing career?
Well, I'm trying to focus on my public records, and I am actually at the moment running for city council here in the city that I live in. So that's kind of what's going to be taking up my time for the next few months.
Well, I just want everybody to know that Theresa paid me $10,000 for this piece of publicity. So, no, I'm joking. So you're running, I'm sorry, you're running for what position exactly?
So,
city council, but like, is it a particular, is just general city council, or is it like a particular kind of city council member?
Ward 2, District something. I'm not exactly sure, Ward D, District 2, but yeah, it's just city, there's 5 members on the city council here in Crowley. So I'm just running for the seat that's in my district where I live. Okay.
Are you running opposed or unopposed?
No, I'm actually opposed. I think there are 3 or 4 other people running against me.
Is it a type of election where there are political parties involved, or is it just kind of general, anybody can run?
Pretty much general, I mean, yeah, it's just a general election. And like they're going to have the primary, which is November the 6th, I think. And then if there's a runoff, it'll be December the 6th or something, so that they'll have, 4 people running. There may be a runoff. So then we'll have another month or so before they actually do the final election. And I guess that kind of sits with, I'm not sure who's exactly what state offices are running, but that kind of lines up with the state offices at the same time.
Do you have a campaign manager or a campaign staff or anything like that?
She's the treasurer, and then myself and my family helping me.
Do you have a website or a Facebook page for your campaign?
Not so far. I'm just really kind of getting started. I qualified, I guess, about 2 weeks ago, but I've been really busy with Leon Valley and stuff. But I sat down and wrote up everything for my flyers and get started on my Facebook page and all of those things. In local elections, the last part of the election is really when you want to make the run, because if you start too early, people forget who you are. And I don't have a huge amount of money to spend on my campaign, so I want to use it all, towards the end when people are fixing to vote, if that makes any sense.
Sure, it makes sense. I've never been a campaign manager, so I don't know when to spend your money or how, but it sounds good to me. Okay, I'm assuming that the other candidates will dig into your past. Do you have any skeletons in your closet? Have you ever been charged with or convicted of a crime?
Charged before. I got a misdemeanor citation for possession of marijuana and possession of drug paraphernalia back in maybe. And then that was deferred, so it wasn't a conviction. And then I've been arrested 2 other times here in Crowley for video recording.
All right. I won't ask you if you actually were guilty of possession of pot. Do you think that drug drug laws are working, or do you think that drug laws are not working?
And is that the war on drugs is a war on people?
I'm going to chalk that up to you think it's not working.
Absolutely not.
Okay. If you were going to identify with a political party, and I'm not going to hold you to this, but if you were going to identify with a political party, what political party do you think you would identify with?
Mostly as a libertarian, if I were going to line. And I'm actually registered as a libertarian. That was something that I did before I went and qualified for office. I registered as a libertarian.
Are you more of a Ron Paul, Rand Paul style libertarian, or are you more of a James Freeman style libertarian?
I probably more like Ron Paul or Rand Paul.
Okay. Are you following the James Freeman saga?
A little bit, not a whole lot. I mean, I have a general idea of what's going on.
On a scale of 1 to 2, how many feet do you think he shot himself in?
What do you mean?
Has he shot himself in 1 foot or both feet at this point?
Well, you know, I see this a lot. You know, once you get representation, and I'm guessing this is what you're talking about. Once you have representation with an attorney, you need to listen to what he says to do. I have this attorney, Clay Burgess, and when he tells me not to talk to somebody or to talk to somebody or to do this or not to do that, I do what he says because he's the guy that's going to represent me. And when I need an attorney, he's there for me. You know what I'm saying? I follow his direction.
I think I love you.
So, you know, if I have anything, I think a lot of activists get involved in this and they say, oh, well, you know, we need the publicity. We need to get this information out there. It's got to be out there. We got to get the information out there. But, you know, attorney, and keep your mouth shut if that's what they tell you to do.
So you're in Leon Valley a lot. You must be familiar also with Mexican Padilla. Do you think that Mexican Padilla is good, bad, or neutral as far as helping, hindering, or not doing anything for auditing and videography in general?
You know, I think everybody brings something to the table. I really do. And I know that's probably not going to go over well with you, but I think everybody does. I think Padilla may be a little misguided in how he has handled things in the past. Maybe he's getting a grip because of what's happening to him and the situation that he's finding himself in with not even being able to work and all of the bond conditions and what have you. And this, you know, letting all these charges get stacked up. I don't think that was a very good idea, but it is what it is now. And, you know, he'll listen to whoever's representing him and, you know, do the right thing and try to get out of this with, I guess, as few cuts and bruises as he can.
Last I heard, he still believes that he wasn't trespassing and that he didn't do nothing. He does have a new attorney. Do you? I've seen you trolling around through some of my videos, and I do appreciate it. Do you believe that he was trespassing?
Whenever, I don't know if he was, you know, I don't know if a court's going to find that he, you know, if a jury's going to find that he was trespassing or not. I have a rule that when they ask me to leave, I leave. Because, you know, you can fight that out later. You can leave under duress or whatever you need to do and sue them later. But, you know, when they ask you to leave, you got to go. I'm not really into being tackled by people or drug out of a building. That's just me. So when they ask me to leave, I go. And I think that's probably something everybody should do. You can fight those out later. I don't know why people, I guess I do know why, because, you know, I was really angry when I first started doing this myself and I got myself arrested twice. But, you know, it's not necessary to get yourself arrested to be able to file a lawsuit to make a change.
Out of curiosity, if, and this is just a big if Earl wanted to come in here and make a statement, would you be interested in a discussion that he was involved in?
Again?
I said, if Earl found the balls to come in here and make the statement that he's making in the chat to your face, would you be interested in hearing him?
Sure.
Well, there you have it, Earl, who had the temerity to say, who needs enemies when your friends or jilted ex-girlfriends are glad to betray anything you've told them in trust, which is why I led initially asking if you are or were ever romantically involved. Has your answer changed to that?
No.
Have you ever been intimate with him? And this is probably a bad time for your mic to not work, because you probably want to say it loud and clear, whichever way you're going on it. And it's not.
Can you not hear me?
I could not hear you, no.
I didn't come here. You know, Merb, you wanted to talk about News Now Houston, and I know that you're interested in this gun and all of these other things. But I didn't come here badmouth David or to badmouth News Now Houston. The thing that I never understood is understanding a little more now, but I didn't understand what the big controversy was. What is the big controversy? I mean, you know, I know that he knows that he has this sexual assault. He can't carry a firearm. So I never understood what the big controversy was. I understand what you're saying now. I didn't come here to throw stones at him or anything. And I respect him and I respect what he does. And I hope, you know, that he continues to do what he does and do it as well as he's always done. So it you know, it upsets me, I guess, that he would want to throw stones at me for him, you know, in the past. So
the answer is no. That's what I was looking for. All right. So I don't think, knowing Earl, I don't think he's going to have the nuts to come in here and actually say it to anybody's face. So I wouldn't really terribly worry about it. Back to Leon Valley. You were upset that Leon Valley raided Jack. Are you aware that it was actually the Bexar County, what was it, the Bexar County Sheriff or the Bexar County Constable? I forget which one it was, but it was not actually the Leon Valley Police Department, and it was on a warrant that was signed by a magistrate. That is not associated with Leon Valley. Were you aware of that?
I was.
Okay, and that it still bothered you?
Bothered me because I heard some of the details of the, you know, what happened in the search warrant and stuff in the background. So, what they did to him and his family. I mean, you can say what you want about how legal it was. I'm not saying that it wasn't legal. I'm not saying that, you know, that they did everything like they were supposed to and dotted all their I's and crossed all their T's. But I don't have any doubt in my mind that they did it to be retaliatory or that they did it to be intimidating to not just Jack, but to everyone else, to scare the hell out of everyone. That's why they did it. They didn't have a reason to. And I think that they put his family in a lot of danger going in with guns. And, you know, he's got I think his son and his daughter-in-law, or maybe the other way around, his daughter and son-in-law, and maybe they have some children that they had, you know, a lot of people in the house. And I just think they could have handled it another way. They could have handled it another way.
How do you think they could have handled it?
On his door, or they, you know, the next morning and arrested him. They sure could have done that.
Okay. I agree with you. I personally believe that it was retaliatory. and that it was done in the way that it was done to maximize the psychological effect. At the same time, I also think that they were doing it as more of a fishing expedition to try to see what else they could get on Jack, because what they were looking at, just him having the firearm in the entryway of the courthouse, wouldn't, in my mind, really be a case that a prosecutor would want to bring by itself. Does that make sense?
Yes, I mean, I can understand if he went in there waving it around or something, or even out in the parking lot waving it around, or even, you know, being wacky. But I mean, I saw the video. He wasn't wacky in there. He was polite. And I just, he put they put his family in danger. They could have gotten killed. And that scares me because it could happen to any one of us. You know, I mean, like I said, I don't introduce firearms into any audits that I do. You know, we were out in Leon Valley, and people are making death threats on other people's live streams, and we're getting properties stolen from us, you know, taken from us, seized from us.
Do you really think it could happen to anybody, though?
I've seen it happen to activists over the years. I've seen it happen to many activists over the years.
But do you think so? I know you were in my stream Saturday watching my, and I'm using huge air quotes around this too, audit. Do you, well, let's just, I guess I'm assuming facts, not evidence. Do you believe I'm an auditor?
Everybody is an auditor. You might not be a very good one, but yeah, everybody's an auditor.
All right. So you believe I'm an auditor. Do you believe that I will ever get the police kicking open my door with a search warrant?
Not.
Why do you think that I won't get negative police interaction and maybe say Jack will?
You know, Jack has a lot of videos, but probably more negative to police officers, and that's no excuse, but that may be something that would, you know, drive them to. But as far as you not getting raided, I don't think that they would raid you. You don't, I mean, you walked around a building with a camera and stuff. I've seen other people walk around a building with a camera, right now, but one guy in particular that was doing a First Amendment audit, and the police chief came out and freaked out on him, and I don't remember if he was arrested or not, but the guy went home and they came in his house and raided him. He lived with his dad, and they came in and raided him in his dad's house and took all their property, scared the hell out of him. Amendment audit, you know, and not too different than what you were doing to people. And that's not the first auditor that I've heard about things like that happening. You know, Jeff Gray had had social services sent out to his house.
Yeah.
Had my house raided. You remember the? Do you remember I told you that I had a ticket for possession of marijuana? Well, that came after I was very involved and digging around in City Hall and digging around in the books up there in Iowa where I used to live, and one day they showed up to my house with a search warrant and dug around in my house for 4 hours. They found 1/2 gram of marijuana in my house and charged me just to humiliate me and embarrass me. Happen to anyone? Yes, I think so.
Okay. I don't particularly think it could happen to anyone. I think a lot of it comes from how people present themselves. I'm not faulting you, but when I watch your videos, you do seem to get a little defensive when you're talking to the various city council people and, you know, city managers and things like that.
Sure.
Do you watch your videos?
Sometimes.
Okay. Do you think I'm being? Do you think I am off in my analysis?
I have a low tolerance for bullshit. That's right.
You do have a very low tolerance for bullshit. Okay. Well, At this point, I don't think News Now Houston is going to jump in. I think he quickly lost his taste for confrontation. Do you have anything that you want to ask me about or debate me on, since apparently I'm being overbearing yet again?
I do.
Okay.
A few questions I wrote down. So my first question for you is, what does your name mean? Merbeast. What does that mean?
Merbeast is like mermaid, but Merbeast. I have always loved fish, which is one of the reasons why I like P&P News. Fish keeping, fish tanks, fish in general, and I was from way back in the day, back when there were BBSs, bulletin board systems. I picked up the name Merbeast, and it's always gone from there. And then Leet Speak came in, and you replaced the E and the A with a 3 and a 4, and there you go, Merbeast.
All right. Next question. You ready?
I'm ready.
Have you always lived in California? You're born and raised there?
Born and raised.
And do you have any children?
No.
What kind of law do you practice?
General, but mostly it's family law. It seems there's a never-ending string of people who are getting divorced or wanting to fight over kids or things like that. There's just way too much of it. So most of my time I spend doing family law or variations on it. A little bit of time is civil, and very rarely do I get to play around in criminal.
Well, something else that I'm curious about, because I heard you talk about some incident maybe that your wife had, or that you and your wife had when she was taking a photography class, that maybe got you more interested in the auditing community. Mm-hmm. And I never really, I don't know what the incident was, and I was wondering if you could tell me about the incident.
There is a pumping station on, it's not the American River, it's the Sacramento River. It's one of those two rivers. It's in Sacramento. It's right next to Old Town Sacramento. It's a brand new pumping station that they just built, and it's designed, of course, to pump water out of the river. And my wife was taking a class on photography, and one of the kinds of projects that she had was doing various different kinds of night shots. So she had some that were really long exposures to try to bring out the colors and things at night. And then the one that we were doing, we were out at this place, and it's alongside the river, and there's like a trail that is pretty popular during the day, but it was at night. And we had a whole bunch of these glow sticks where you snap them, and then you painting with light. She just showed me a note, painting with light. So we had a whole bunch of these glow sticks that were different colors, and you'd snap them and they glow, and then you tie a string to it, and you'd whirl it around. And if you had everything set right on the camera, it would like make a circle out of it.
Yes,
and then
I know the technique. Yes.
Yeah, and you could draw different things. And so we were doing that. Probably looked really ridiculous doing it. And a police officer came by, and there's me and my wife, and just, hey, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh yeah, we're just, doing this painting with the lights thing. And then it turned into, 1,001 questions and wanting to see ID. And it was just stupid. So for whatever reason, I went online and I was like looking up stuff, and I found PNAC, photography is not a crime. Cause I had graduated law school, but I didn't really, I hadn't really thought about any of this stuff. So I was looking up photography outside, things like that, to see like what he might have been looking for, what we might have been doing that might have drawn his attention, because I couldn't understand it. And then I came across Photography is Not a Crime. I started watching some of their little videos, and then I was like, holy crap, this is terrible. And, I need to start stabbing these people in the eye because they're just terrible, terrible people. And then I calmed down and realized that I was being reactionary, and but I found it. I loved it. I like talking about it, and I love the First Amendment. So that's why I'm here. There was your short story made long.
Very interesting, because that's what usually happens. People have an incident, and that's what usually kind of throws them into this. All right, my very last question is why you don't make more videos that that's like a better scenario for, I hear you talk about the scenarios that we might set up that you don't think are typical. I don't know, and but you never make any suggestions about what might work better. And so I'm curious, suggestions for scenarios that might make First Amendment auditing work better.
Well,
you do them.
I think I do. I've seen changes in a number of auditors who are reacting to the advice I'm giving. People are understanding what a traditional public forum is at this point, or at least a lot of people are. The smarter ones, the ones who actually care and don't want to just get arrested for nothing. So people are becoming more aware, in my opinion. They're becoming more aware of where they have greater protections, where they have less protections. When I go over somebody's mistake, where they get arrested for trespass, and I show them the law. So now, if you live in Texas and you've watched any of my numerous videos on Padilla's trespass and things like that, you should know by now exactly when, why, and how you would be arrested for trespass and how to avoid that. And I've also talked at length in various videos about why, like photography in courts, in my opinion, shouldn't be allowed, and why you're not going to change it by filming in courts. And even though I don't agree with people filming in courts, I have still told people the methods that they need to go through to effectuate that change, the steps they take. And I know a lot of people like Freeman want to poo-poo it, say, oh, just vote harder. No, it's not vote harder. It's getting the public on your side, getting the public to vote the way you want them to vote. Your vote can only go as far as you can take it. But if you get enough people behind you, if you get a movement, if you get enough people to the polls, then they can make the changes that you want to see done. And I have a feeling that you are on board with using government, using the political systems, and not just poo-pooing the existence of those political positions, since you are, in fact, running for a political position. Am I correct?
Yeah, I'm not an anarchist. I mean, I understand that we need government. I've noticed that a lot of times anarchists are usually in this community usually a lot younger. They're younger people. They want anarchy. They don't want any government at all. But the older you get, I think the more you realize that you need it. I mean, if we didn't have services, there would be nobody to come out and put the fire out at our house. We wouldn't have roads, a lot of things. So I know we need government. I'm not an anarchist.
Which actually brings me to another question for you. I don't really know, or to be quite honest, care about your feelings on Alex Jones. But what do you think about censorship in general, even on private platforms like YouTube and Facebook, etc.?
Well, I'm a firm believer in providing people with the information and allowing them to make their own decision about, what they see. So I'm against all censorship for the most part.
Well, good. I'm glad that there are some people out there who agree with me.
Yeah, all of it. You have to, you have to, the board, you can't have it one way for yourself and not for someone else.
Are you do you go to live streams very often in this particular little community?
Oli.
I heard something that sounded like Oli.
I'm sorry. Occasionally I do watch live streams. Just depends on if I have time.
Do you see a lot of censorship in this community?
On some of the live streams, yes. And I have a you know, I I guess people can do what they want on their own YouTube channels. And I know that you're against this. I know you're against censorship in the comments section. And I know we had a back and forth about this a little bit the other day. But after I used to censor my comments, and then there just got to be so many of them, I really stopped paying attention to them. But then I had the issue, and I don't know if you've seen the video with the Welsh clerk, and I had an issue with the city clerk in the city of Rain suing me, and it was over. A lot of it was about the comments that were left in the comment section. Obviously I'm not responsible for the comments in the comment section, but it just caused a lot of drama when I had to go to court and sit in court and answer all these questions about these comments and what have you. So, like I said, I used to moderate it and have a lot of stuff filtered. And then I talked to Jeff Gray, and he was like, no, you don't want to moderate it. And so I took all of the filters off, and I just would let all of the comments go. And then Leon Valley happened. And, people were getting arrested for comments that were made on their channels. And again, I don't want anybody coming into my home in the middle of the night and taking my computers and stuff because someone left a comment on my channel. So now I filter them again, and I filter them for, words like kill cops or address, things like that.
Have you actually seen any of the evidence presented that supports the charges regarding the comments? Have you actually seen that Freeman and Bao were charged for these comments that they had nothing to do with? They didn't endorse them. They didn't encourage them.
No, I haven't seen them. And until until that's something that I know for sure that it wasn't because of this or it was because of that, I just think that it's probably best that I protect myself from getting arrested for someone else's comments.
I don't think you can. But again, I would recommend that you talk to your very well qualified attorney, Mr. Burgess over it. And he may tell you.
Even if you can't, it doesn't mean that you won't. Even if it's against the law, that doesn't mean that they won't come in your house and they won't take your computer. It doesn't mean that they won't seize you up at the grocery store while you're with your grandkids because you have a warrant now from Leon Valley for whatever reason. It doesn't mean that they won't. And I'm not willing to take that chance.
That is an excellent point, and well taken. So score 1 for you, or more, depending on who's keeping the score. I was going to go on with you can get sued for damn near anything, but it's whether or not you'll lose that is the question. So yes.
Right, and I've gotten sued for First Amendment issues before, and if I had lost that case, I would have had to mortgage my house to pay for the appeals and pay for the attorneys and stuff. If I had lost my SLAPP motion, my anti-SLAPP motion, I would have had to mortgage my house.
Yeah.
So, and that was for things that I said on Facebook, words.
That's why all speech should be 100% free, and people shouldn't be allowed to sue you until they prove that there is some sort of defamation. So, does anybody, or I'm sorry, before I cut you off, do you have any more questions or anything further to say?
No, I just kind of want to make the point again that I didn't come here to throw stones at anybody. I really just kind of wanted to clear the air about the whole issue with the firearms and the gun. And I don't really understand what all the controversy is. Like I said, I mean, and I'm not here to throw stones at anybody. So I just really wanted to kind of clear that up because, and I always said that to David, well, why don't you just let me make a video and just go over everything, just tell everybody everything, and then you'll be done with it. That's just what I'm trying to do.
Okay. Do you have time to stick around for questions, or do you have things to do and places to be?
No, I'm finished cleaning my house, so I was just sitting here for the rest of the evening.
Okay. There's questions popping in that apparently people don't want to say out loud. So there's Dennis Sayer is saying, he says he asked the Mississippi Public Service Commission for a transcript of a meeting held in public by Commissioner Brandon Presley. I was denied the transcript at a reasonable cost based on the reason the record was made as a private record for the commissioner, but was offered to buy the transcript for $185. I did not pay the $185. I did video record the meeting with no issues, and all I wanted to do was verify the transcript was what I felt was an accurate transcript. Do you feel Mississippi appropriately denied my request?
I'm afraid they probably did, because we have to pay for our transcripts here. Transcripts are a little bit different because it's a transcriber that has to actually do it, and when you pay that money, it actually goes to the transcriber. So it's not really the city that's collecting it. You know, you're paying for the transcript. And a lot of times a meeting won't even get transcribed unless someone orders the transcript. So that's why they charge you so much money for it, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that's court reporters or court recorders. They also charge for their transcripts. New Jersey Diver says, what is the status of your phone and Leon Valley?
So my phone is just in limbo over there. No one's contacted me. I haven't been served with any search warrant in the mail or anything like that. You know, I've had my property seized by the police before, and you know, when they pulled the search warrant, I got it in the mail. I haven't gotten anything from them. And now, you know, I've signed a contract with an attorney, so I haven't called back up there to find out what's going on. But before, when I tried to call, you can't get anybody on the phone. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
So you do have an attorney on the job? I'll take that to be a yes.
Yes, I'm represented by Clay Burgess.
Awesome. All right. Captain Entropy says, you is a classy lady, Theresa. Lady Zaga asks, is the Welsh clerk still employed?
Employed. She is still employed. None of those people are up for re-election for another 3 years. And the Welsh clerk can't get fired without a recommendation from the mayor and a 2/3 vote of the city council. And the mayor loves her, so she's not going to recommend it. She'll keep her job at least until there's a new mayor.
Okay. Does anybody else, if you want to talk, you're more than welcome to. I think I can unmute you if you are in the chat and you want to. Okay, so Akira's asks, should all drugs be legalized?
I think all of them should be legalized.
All right. Shredded Chi asks if he missed something or she missed something. I should assume gender. Is there a particular reason or incident that preempted you no longer auditing with News Now Houston?
I haven't audited with News Now Houston, I don't think, since the gun in the car.
That was the Border Patrol one?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, that would be a terrible thing to have, like, at the last minute. Oh, by the way, I've got a gun in the car. Wait, what? I didn't sign up for this. Anybody else have any other questions? Or want to be unmuted? Bunny, do you have any questions from your live stream? Can't hear you, Bunny.
Mic on.
Sorry about that. No, I don't have any direct questions from the live stream, though. There was one person asking about if you do your always do your research before these debates, and I mentioned that you generally just set up these debates when you have an open schedule. So.
Oh yeah, I'm completely unprepared. I do sub to Theresa, so that I have some understanding of her background, but that was about it.
Oh, and also someone had a really good comment. I do want to highlight real fast. Nigel Lovelace with Merb at the help, which I think they meant to say helm. This channel should be renamed Jack Boots Inc. I think I might rename my alt channel. I just love the sound of that, so might even make a shirt out of that.
Lady Zaga asks Theresa, "Can you go back to Welsh and see how they are doing with the records request?"
Right. I've been meaning to go back to Welsh, and I've been doing these public record budgets where I just walk in and I ask for the budget. In Louisiana, the financial records are supposed to be immediately available when you go in and ask for them, and I passed through Welsh the other day, and I started to go in there. You know, they know me there, so but I think it'd probably still make a good video.
And then New Jersey Diver would like to ask a question.
Yes, can you hear me now? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yes, Theresa, I really appreciate what you've been doing, especially with the records requests. I know that can be quite difficult at times, especially when the locals totally disregard the state laws. I was just wondering how soon are you going to pursue your phone?
Well, my attorney is he's going to file the lawsuit, I guess, eventually, probably in the next month or so. We plan on filing suit, and we've sent the letter to preserve the evidence and whatnot. But I guess he's been busy, so I don't know if that's the reason that he hasn't drawn it up yet or not. I haven't really spoken to him. I talked to him about it. I went in and sat down with him when it first happened, and I have just always just given him everything. I signed all the papers, and when he files it, he'll let me know.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, I'd muted myself. Does anybody else have anything special, any sweet nothings they would like to whisper in Theresa's ear?
I saw the comment, Lady Zaga. I saw that.
Mic on.
What was it? Blue Ghost Media had a question for you, Merb. Does Merb believe in gag orders?
Mic
do I
off.
believe in them? As in, do I think they exist? Or do I think that they're
Mic on.
generally legal?
I think it was more or less a joke comment, but I'm not. They did. That's all they stated with that specific comment. I'm sort of managing a few things at once here, so.
Mic off.
Gag orders are like they're something that you'll see more in England than you will see over here. Issues in the First Amendment with restricting speech before someone's actually said it. So I'm going to go with, I don't think that they're typical. It's hard. It's typically very difficult to make a gag order kind of stick. So do I believe in them? Yes, they exist. Does anybody else have any wonderful questions?
Someone's asking me about the pipes from the mayor's pipe from rain. I had and I don't know, Merb, if you've seen the video with the who had installed $1,200 worth of culvert pipes in his yard and billed them all to the city until I asked them for the records, and then they decided that it was an accidental billing to the city and that the mayor was going to go ahead and pay for them. So nothing happened to that. Nothing happened to that guy. That was actually why I sued the city of Rain. I sued them for that particular public record. I sued them for the delivery slip that had to be signed for. It had to be signed by one of the city employees, and they wouldn't give it to me. So I filed a lawsuit, and that's when the city clerk there sued me back for defamation.
What was the end of the lawsuit? Did you win? Was there an injunction? Was there payout? What happened?
Excuse me. My public records lawsuit was the judge decided that the record that I had asked for was in fact a public record, but that he could not order them to produce it because they didn't have it anymore. And then with regards to their counterclaim for defamation, we filed 3 separate motions to strike, one of them being an anti-SLAPP motion, and we were granted all 3 of our motions to strike. So the portion of the defamation was dismissed, and my attorney fees were billed back to the city.
Well, that's good that you didn't have to get stuck with the attorney fees. I hear all the time, I hear auditors saying, oh, is that your personal cell phone? I'm going to FOIA request that. Do you believe that if someone takes a picture of you and you FOIA request it, do you believe that the city or state or federal government is going to take that person's personal cell phone in order to get the picture off?
I don't know. I really don't know how that would work. I'm not sure. I think, as I see it, it would be a public record. For it, they would have to produce it. How they would get it off the phone, I have no idea. I would hope that they would just say, hey, can you email me that picture so I can send it to this person? But I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if it was deemed to be a public record, they just email it over. It just always fascinates me hearing these auditors making these threats. Oh, is that your personal cell phone? I'm going to FOIA request that, and you're not going to have it for 6 months. I always found it to be hilarious.
You can FOIA request it, and all they have to do is just send it to the clerk, and she can print it out, and there it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you can FOIA request anything, whether you're going to get it or not. You never know. I mean, they might say, no, we can't get it. The guy quit 12 months ago, and we can't get a hold of his phone or whatever. I mean, I don't know. FOIA request those pictures before, and I think they're kind of cool, and they make a nice little screenshot or whatever for your Facebook page. But I've never asked for any of them.
All right. Lady Zaga says it sounds like another CIA town. Do you have any idea what a CIA town is?
I don't know what that means.
Okay, good, because neither do I. I was a little lost there. And okay, the CIA blocked our answer. Does anybody else have any questions for the lovely and talented Theresa R. before we call it quits here? Desert Sentinel has a TV antenna to assemble and mount. Eyes of Texas thanks you. Dennis Sayer loves your voice and attitude. Lady Zaga was making a soft reference to swine repellent. Okay. Is he still around? Have you ever watched Swine Repellent?
I think I saw a video where maybe he got arrested, and that was the only one. No. I saw a video where he was standing in front of maybe a police station saying that he couldn't talk. He had a gag order or something. I think that might be the only thing I've ever seen.
He's a lovely fella. You're missing out not watching his erudite videos. Anybody else have anything before we go? Oh yeah, it was a swine repellent reference. Okay.
Let me just say something really quick about that and being rude, or I'm just assuming that's what you're talking about with swine repellent, or being rude when you do audits, or being rude. And I'm not always. I mean, I can be a little snarky myself, and like I said, I have a low tolerance for bullshit. But you gotta be as nice to them as you can. I mean, and all the curse words and all of those things. I've done my very best to try to find other words to use instead of saying those. So if you don't play it for a jury, if you do have to go to court, if you do have to go in front of a jury, you're not going to be very sympathetic. You can win a court case and win $1. And your lawyer get paid, the $40,000 they owe him, but you're getting $1, and you're splitting that 40-60 with the attorney. So I'm just saying. I wish that people would keep that in mind.
I agree with you 100%, and I also think there's the added bonus of if you are actually polite and friendly and warm and a nice person to be around, people are going to like you, and by extension, they're going to like what you stand for, and they're going to like what your goals are. And we have, I think, personally, too many people in this general community who act like asshats, and they put people off of listening to what the more reasonable people have to say, and they put people off of wanting to allow more public photography. And just in general, I think it's a huge disservice to the community. It might draw views, it might get clicks, it might get you AdSense or Patreon dollars or whatever, but it doesn't get the changes that we want out there. So,
and you know, it may be like I said, because like when I started doing this, I was very angry, and they sound like they're really angry, you know, and most people get involved in this, like I said, because of an incident that they've had or incidents that they've had, and they are angry. And, you know, you got to let go of that. You got to let go of all that anger, and so that you can see things clearly and do things the right way. You can't go out there and be effective and be angry all the time.
And I also think that a lot of people in their anger, they want to use their camera as a weapon against the police or whoever they think has wronged them. And they go out and they put it in people's faces and they get aggressive with it. And they think that that camera is not just a sword, but they think it's a shield. And because they have this magic camera in their hand, then they could disturb the peace. They could trespass. They can be confrontational and rude and all these other wonderful things. And yeah, Lady Zaga, a weapon. You can use lots of things as a weapon, and you can use a camera as a weapon. So that's just my personal take.
And I get what you say. I get what you say, because I think it really, that camera, it can really empower you. It's very empowering. It's very empowering to see how those videos go. And I mean, you know, to see the reaction that you get, to see some of the things that can happen when you post a good video, you know, the changes that can happen when you post a good video. It's very empowering. So I think people do see it as, you know, maybe not the kind of weapon that you can hit somebody over the head with, but yeah, you know, that's their weapon they use to get back at, and you got to let go of that anger, because just getting back is not gonna make a change.
That is truth. Anybody else have anything wonderful? I know I've been dragging this out, but people keep leaking in questions at the last minute. So if we don't see anything here, then I'm going to say it was lovely talking, Theresa. Thank you for coming in. I hope that nothing is too broken between you and Earl. I know you aren't doing this to be mean, and I don't think you said anything terribly. I don't think you said anything that was horrible about him. So I don't know why he.
And I wasn't trying to. So yeah, I don't either. That's.
But I hope you and your ex-boyfriend get back together. And no, I'm joking. Anyway, so thanks for coming on.
Sail away on that boat.
Thanks for coming on. You have a wonderful evening.
You too. Thanks, Barb.
All right, that is the end of that for the night, guys. I hope you enjoyed quite the interesting discussion that happened. As is, I just got to do a quick little mandatory plug-in. Check out Dennis Sayers' YouTube channel, Pound Sand. As is, I got to give him a quick shout-out because he is a $15 Patreon patron on my Patreon. And if you end up doing $15 per video, First Amendment Friday video, I give you a quick promotion on a live stream. So I just had to make sure I put that little quick plug in. Anyway, also check out his channel. He will have an archive of the discussion that happened here on his channel a little bit later on. Anyway, you guys have a good night.